Hello, everybody. Let me just fix this view. That is better. So, what I'm going to be talking about today is my current struggles. So, I've been on this spiritual path for a very long time. And on this spiritual path, there are struggles, there are challenges. And so, rather than talking about everything else, how about we actually name and claim the struggles so that people can relate, so that we can see what the actual journey is like in real time? Because what we're doing is we're catching the ego in real time, because every time there is challenges, it means the ego is getting runs on the board. And so my current struggle is that I have made an absolute commitment to God, to connect with God more regularly, more consistently, and to have this relationship with God. And it's so interesting that the moment that you start to make this kind of commitment, the ego is so sneaky in sabotaging. And so my ego was apparent to me back in 2021 when I had my spiritual awakening, and I saw it in all its glory in a way that I had never seen it before. And ever since then, I have been watching it very, very carefully, watching every single thing that it thinks, every single thing that it says, to keep me disconnected from the truth of who we really are, which is a soul in a human body. A soul was actually connected to God. A soul that doesn't need a third party to connect to God, because that's where our power lies, is connecting into God just one-on-one. We don't need a third party in the middle. And so I made this commitment that I am going to be in silence throughout the day. So 3 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the middle of the day, 1 hour just before going to bed. And there's always something that happens that gets in the way of that process. And the ego is very, very clever, because the more you see it and the more you understand how it works, the more sneaky it actually gets with its ways. Now, when I talk about ego, it's not a separate entity. It is a mental program that's actually happening in your mind. So these are thought patterns that keep looping around over and over again until we see them, until we acknowledge them, until we no longer play that game, so that they can dissolve. And so the way that the ego has been keeping me disconnected from my connection to God is not by saying, don't meditate, don't be in silence. It's like, oh, just answer this question on your email. Oh, remember that this is really important. Do this now before you forget. You're hungry, maybe eat something now so you're not tired when you're doing your video, or whatever it is, whether it's doing a video or whether it's staying in silence. There's this little voice, voice that comes in that says, oh, do that later. You're too tired today. You deserve to rest. You've done so much today. It's okay. You can watch this show. It's okay. You can just relax. It's okay. You can just scroll. It's okay. You can just go on social media for a minute, and then later you can meditate. But later never comes. And so what actually is happening is that every single night lately, when I've decided that more than ever, I want to commit these hours of time where I'm just sitting in complete silence and calling in the light of God and calling in Yeshua or Jesus. And I do call them in all through the day, but I get distracted. I continue to get distracted. I continue to find something that's more important. I continue to have thoughts that say, do this before you forget. And so the more that you say yes to those thoughts, the more disconnected we stay. And that's the whole way that the planet is programmed so that we do stay disconnected from God. Because if we are connected to God, we are so, so powerful. When we get connected to the light of God, and there has been moments in my time when I have connected it in a very powerful way, this force rises inside your body in such a powerful way that nothing can disrupt that power and nothing can disrupt that light. But we keep giving in. We keep saying yes to the distractions. We keep saying yes to the programs that are here to keep us disconnected from the God path. And so the ego is so clever that it doesn't sound unreasonable. It sounds very reasonable. It basically disguises avoidance as logic. So it says things like, just clear your inbox and then you can focus. Just do this and then you can be in a good space. You're too tired to actually sit down and listen and call in God right now. Just relax. You deserve it. So you tell yourself, yeah, okay, I'll just do this and then I'll connect to God and then I'm going to sit in silence and then I'm going to do that and then never happens because the ego fears this connection with God. Because once you are connected to God, there is nothing that the ego will say that is actually important, that is actually relevant, that you actually need to listen to. So you tell yourself, yeah, I'll do my practice before I go to bed. I'll just do this one thing first. And then all of a sudden, it's 11 p.m. You're too exhausted to sit in silence because if you close your eyes, then you just go to sleep. That's what happened to me last night. And it was like, oh, I did it again. I was supposed to do my reading. I was supposed to read Course in Miracles last night. I was supposed to sit in silence with God so I can hear God. But instead, I've I've scrolled, I've done all these other things, and now it's 11 p.m. And the moment I close my eyes so that I can actually meditate or stay in stillness, what actually happens is that I'm falling asleep. And so then you just give up and go to sleep. And so this is what's actually happening. This procrastination is not laziness, it's actually the ego that is fearful about itself, its identity getting dissolved. So it fights to stay relevant. So the moment that you decide to slow down, the moment you decide to let go and just connect in, there are thoughts that come in that are more important than what you are doing in that moment. That's what the thoughts tell you, that they're more important. But nothing is more important than connecting into the stillness, because in that stillness, in that connection with God, that's where peace lies. That's where freedom lies. That's where power lies. So, this kind of resistance that's happening at the moment with me, it's telling me I'm on the precipice. I'm like this close. I'm this close, but I keep resisting. And so today, that's why I wanted to talk to that resistance, because most people misinterpret resistance as failure. But it's not failure, it's proximity. It's the ego panicking because truth is really, really, really close. So every time you deepen into practice, suddenly old habits are coming up. Suddenly you want to eat more for no reason, you're not hungry. Suddenly you want to get busy cleaning the house or whatever. You want to scroll on the phone. You want to see this show because there's only one episode left and you nearly finished the last one. And all of these things are just distractions which are keeping you from the path of God. Because when we connect to the stillness, when we connect to the silence, that is where we're getting close to the 0 point. The 0 point where everything is there and nothing is there at the same time. When nothing else matters, when you understand that everything else is just a story, that keeps us busy and keeps us looping and keeps us disconnected. And so the first step is to notice that you're catching this pattern. This is a pattern that I'm catching. I'm catching myself getting distracted. And so what I do now is I actually say that aloud. Oh, there I go again. I'm getting distracted. So the moment that I see myself scrolling, I delete those apps on my phone. And then the next day, there's another reason to put them back on again because I'm going to do a video that never happens. And so what actually happens is that when you observe these patterns, it dissolves the ego identity. And so that's the first step, is to actually observe them, observe these patterns and say, oh, there I go again, getting distracted from what's really important. Because the only thing that's important at this time on the planet is to create and to maintain a relationship with our Creator. That's it. When we do that, there's nothing that can get in our way. But instead, we're kept busy, we're kept distracted, and we're told that we need to earn a certain amount of money, we need to buy a certain amount of things, and our relationships need to look a certain type of way in order for us to be worthy. So when you see your ego getting in the way of some silence, this is where we just need to watch it and decide to break that pattern. Hypnotherapists call it a pattern interrupt, where you just break the pattern. The moment you see yourself scrolling, say, I'm breaking this pattern. I'm putting this phone down. So when we are avoiding that thing that we know we need to do, it points to the old identity that is now dying. Because I have known for such a long time that I need to be in silence. I need to call in the light of God, and I do it every morning. But I've been wanting to do it every afternoon and early evening, and then something else just always gets in the way. And so this avoidance of doing what you know you need to do is because you're avoiding letting go of the old self, because the old self is on its last legs. And so silence reveals what you've been pretending not to see. You're avoiding what will be shown to you, because the ego doesn't want you to see what's underneath the surface. It just wants you to deal with surface stuff, because then it can keep you in this fear mode. And so the win is not about sitting in silence for an hour, but it's about really seeing what this avoidance is about without shame and without guilt. So even if you just start with sitting in silence for 2 minutes every hour, then there's going to be a new pattern that's going to develop. And we're rewiring and refiring those old neural pathways that every time we sit down, we grab the phone. Like, I was at the gym this morning. Everybody is on their phone between sets. Like, it used to be that people give themselves like a 30-second break between sets, and now they're like 10 minutes between sets, because they just grab their phone and then they get lost in the phone, even at the gym. Like, everywhere, you know it. Everybody's addicted, including me. Everybody is addicted to their phones. So when you stop listening to the ego and agreeing with everything that it says, then you're going to actually start to hear God. There's the times that I have sat in silence, there's been, I find that God is really, really subtle and just gives me like one sentences. But I think that's because that's the amount of time that I'm giving God. The more you give, the more you get. And I've got these 3 sentences, and I've just remembered them, that I've written them in my journal in terms of what I've heard on different periods of silence. And I want to share them with you in another video in terms of what was said to me. Really interesting. So what we need to do more than ever is be in silence. And even if you don't believe in God, and even if you have a resistance to the word God, it doesn't matter. It's really not important. Use whatever word makes sense to you. Use universe. Use a force higher than me. Use anything. Use your higher self. Whatever it is that you actually use, you need to be in silence, because no matter where you think those messages and that guidance is coming from, it's coming from somewhere else other than you. And those messages and that guidance is going to keep you in a state of peace and absolute freedom. And so we need to awaken to the fact that we are on this treadmill of life where everything is more important than our connection to the creator. Everything is more important. The busy means that we're really good people because we're doing a lot of things and we're keeping ourselves productive, when really we're just staying disconnected. And so if this message resonated with you, please tell me how you stay distracted. What are your patterns that you know are not serving you? Because if you name them and claim them, they will start to dissolve. We've all got them, so there's no shame. Every single one of us has got these patterns that we do, that we continue to do, whether it's scrolling, snacking, eating, getting on the phone, watching shows, whatever. And I'm not saying that any of those things are bad. Of course not. But be very aware of what you're engaging in. Be very aware of where you're putting your energy to, how you're spending your time and day. When really we are all children of God. And when we sit in silence and we ask for the light of God to come in, you can feel, you can feel, you can feel the energy. And it's like this warmth that just goes through the body. And then you start to receive messages, not initially, because those thoughts are there, which are trying to get you out of that state. But eventually the messages come through. And those messages are simple but powerful, that keep you in peace and in freedom. So if this message resonated with you, please let me know in the chat below. Please like and subscribe to this channel, because what I want to do is get on and talk more about what struggles I'm actually going through rather than my wins. We're always talking about wins. How about what struggles we're actually going through, so that we can all relate to one another and we don't pretend that everything is okay when it really isn't, when we're actually struggling with basic things like staying still for 5 minutes. It's just basic. And yet there's such a huge struggle with just staying silent for 5 minutes, putting your phone on do not disturb, closing your eyes, and just focusing on your breath. And so my very next Breath of Bliss ceremony, the link is down below, is all about finding peace within the chaos, where I take you through a psychedelic breath journey without substances. It's very powerful. It's 2 hours of your time online, where you just lay back with an eye mask and earphones, and I take you to that point where you know what you need to do to find peace and freedom in your life. So, sending you so much love, and find that silence, find that quiet time, find that peace time. You've got this. We've all got this. See you later. Sending you so much love. And remember this. Remember to always, 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 always live in truth. Always live in truth.